Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's class. We apologize for not coming on last week. It was due to network glitches. So today, like I told you in our last class, that was 2 weeks ago, I told you that we shall be looking into non-African drama text. And the title of the text we shall be looking into and that we will be analyzing is August Wilson's Fences. And I said it that day, I remember that this particular play, Fences, has been acted as a play where Denzel Washington played one of the major character. That is Troy Maxon. Now, the book was written and published in 1983. Yes, the book was written and published in 1983. Now, there is one thing you need to know about this book, which will help you, which will help contribute to the background knowledge. That is the framework with which you will understand this text. Is that this particular text, Fences, is written in a form of a, let me call it a series. Yes, it is written in form of a series, which is called the Pittsburgh Cycle. It is written in form of a series. So there are stories, there are documentations of August Wilson, who happens to be the playwright, and this documentation began in 1950s. In the 50s, it began in the 50s. So and it continued. So this particular one that we would be picking out, that is Fences, that we will be analyzing, was written in 1983, and this text, it has let's go this way. It has eight or nine characters. Let me put it that way. Everything in the play took place in just 2 acts. There are 2 acts and 9 scenes. The first act, there are 4 scenes, and in the second act, there are 5 scenes. Now, it's a story about the Maxons family. It's a story about the Maxons family. Maxon, Maxson. So, one of the major characters is Troy Maxon. One of the major characters is Troy Maxon. The name of his wife is Rose Maxon, and the name of the son they had together was Corey Maxon. I believe you grasp that. Now, before Troy's marriage to Rose, he had a son. That son would be definitely older than Corey. He had a son called Leons. He is Troy's eldest son. He is Troy's eldest son in his previous relationship, and he is a jazz musician. He has the dream of becoming a jazz. Mentioned 4 characters, right? Troy Maxon, Corey Maxon, Rose Maxon, and Leon. Yes, you can call him Leon Maxon too. And also now there is Troy's friend, whose name is Bono. They met in the prison. Please take note of all these things. They met in the prison, and they are both sanitation workers. They are garbage collectors. So we can, no matter how we euphemize it and make it sound pleasant, they pick trashes from what? They pick trashes and put it in garbage truck. Oh, is that not what it's called? Yes, in garbage truck. That's what they do, and they earn they earn wages. They collect their money weekly, and after the collection of the money weekly, when they are going home, it's their routine that they purchase. Troy will buy a wine, which they will, upon getting to Troy's home, they will share the wine together, drink the wine. Then Bono will head back to his own house. Aha, that's what they do. Is the fifth character, right? Now there is this another character, Alberta, who is not shown in the text. So she neither in the film, she won't have a tone. When I say a tone, there is no place in the text where you will hear her speak at all. There's no place in the text where you will hear her speak. Right? Am I saying the right thing? Yes. You won't hear anything about her. So Alberta happens to be a neighbor, let me put it that way, a neighbor to Troy. Alberta's house is not far away from Troy's house. Alberta's house is not far from Troy's house. And eventually, Troy started having a relationship with Alberta. Alberta got pregnant. That, in fact, by doing this, I've discussed the plot of the play with you. Alberta got, or let me say, a portion of the plot rather. Alberta got pregnant. As a result of Alberta's pregnancy, Troy had to disclose this secret relationship of his to his wife, Rose, who felt really bad. They've been married for 18 years. They've been married for 18 years. So at that point in time, Rose couldn't have expected that Troy would do such a thing. Troy was already 50, in his 50s. Troy was already in his 50s, maybe 50, maybe 53, I think. Troy was already 53. So she was shocked. So she expected that if at all Troy would do something as such, it is something that could or that should have come earlier in their relationship or in their union. It is something that should have come earlier, not at that point when they are already old. So Alberta, when it was time for Alberta's delivery, Troy had to rush her to the hospital. So there was a discord. There was a miscommunication between Troy and Rose. Rose began to engage herself more in her church activities. So she distanced herself from Troy. So Troy had the time to stay with Alberta. So, but when it was time for for Alberta to get delivered of her baby, she was rushed to the hospital by Troy in the night, and Troy went back home. And in the morning, Troy was called. He received a call from the hospital that that Alberta is dead and that the baby survived. So the baby survived, and the baby was named Rainel. So Rainel became Troy and Alberta's daughter. And now with the mother dead, Troy had to bring Rainel home. Reluctantly, he sat on the, what was it called? What was this thing called? A swing. Yes, there is a swing in their garden, in their backyard. So when Troy came in, he sat on the swing with the baby in his hand, and he was singing a song, a blues song that contains the story of a man who wants a train driver. What do we call a train driver now? So someone who drives a train. Let me put it that way. So it's a story of a man who wants a free ride on a train. let me put it. That is symbolic, definitely. What that symbolizes is that Troy is back home and he is definitely helpless. There is no way he could take care of a little baby on his own. So, how better, uh, sorry, Rose, being a good mother, hmm, decided that Rainel had no hand. That is, the beautiful little girl had no hand in Troy's sin. That the little girl is innocent of Troy's sin. So she had no option as a fact that she is even a good mother. She took in the child. She came outside, collected the child from the father, that is from Troy, and she started fending for the child's need. Some few years later, Troy had an heart attack and Troy died. Now, and the other two parts of the plot, which I am yet to make make mention of, is about Troy's son with Rose. That is Corey. Now, you should also be uh, intimated with the fact that Troy had a very rough experience growing up with his father. He grew up somewhere in the south. That's what we were told. The place wasn't specifically stated. He grew up somewhere in the south where racial segregation was dominant. That was where Troy grew up. And now growing up as someone who is energetic, who is strong, he initially he was a baseball player. Can you hear me, Mr. Um, Sunday?
Yes, I can. I
All
believe
right, sir.
Rose David, you can hear him, right? Are you
Okay,
there? We can't hear you. Okay.
I'll continue, but kindly please endeavor tell them to check the YouTube to follow up the class on their own. Some of them might not be able to reschedule with us. Their timing might not be flexible enough, so they may not be able to join the class right now.
Yeah, I understand.
So, so Troy, being an energetic man, was passionate enough to go into sport. He was a baseball player. But because of the racial profiling that was common then, he couldn't play the baseball. He couldn't play the baseball, and he had to give up on what he is so passionate about. He had to give up on his dream because the blacks were not accepted to play in the major league. So later on, years after, so many years after, this racial profiling in the major baseball league started to reduce, and at that time, he was already old. Let me put it that way. He couldn't play anymore. So this made him very bitter, and he has this biased mindset. Am I safe to use the word bias? He has this hatred in his heart for 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 the white and for the even sport. He has this hatred for sport. So at the time when some few black players were allowed, he was already old, And even at that time, that was when the Black Baseball League was also formed. So a baseball league meant for Black people. So at this time, he was already old and he couldn't play. Now a son, Corey, the son he had with Rose. Corey also was a young boy who was 14, 15, and he had received a scholarship to play football. The father played baseball, but the son has received a scholarship to play football. But because of this mindset of choice, he he denied the boy the opportunity of playing football. What he wanted to go to A&P supermarket, and when he closes from school, he wants him to go to A&P supermarket, and when he gets there, he should walk. When he walks, he should come and he should help the mom too. That's all the father ever wanted. All he wanted him to do was go to school and just school alone, nothing but sport. So when the child has the opportunity of having a scholarship, of going to a college uh, where his school fees would be paid and he will have the opportunity of playing football, the father didn't agree to sign to append the signature to the scholarship form. And so there is this enmity. There is this father-son enmity between them. The boy hated the father, but the father had no problem. The father had no issue with the father had no issue with the boy. He understand his pain, and he understand his youthful ignorance. The ignorance that comes with being young. He understands it very well. So as a result of not signing this, Corey was also unable to play. Corey was also unable to play football because no one to pay his school fees. So it got to a point in time. There were two fights between him and his father, and it was the second one that the father. I think the second one. If there are two, it will be the second one. If there are three, it should be the third one. But I think there are just two. The second one, it was the second one that the father told him to pack his things and get out from his roof. That he should get out. So Corey moved out. When Corey moved out, Corey eventually he joined the Marines, and he didn't come back home until the news of Troy's death uh, reached him in the Marines. That was when he came home and he found Raynell. Yes, that was when he came home. We've discussed that. Now, what to say about Leon? What to say about Leon? Leon is Corey's eldest son, the son he had from his previous relationship before going to jail where he met Bono. So Corey is married. He doesn't have a work. He doesn't have a job. He only goes to there is this bar he goes to where he plays soul music, and he believes that one day he would become a star. So in these 9 scenes and in the 9 scenes that took place in Fences, I think he came around like 2 or 3 times. And the first time he usually comes, from what we understand in context while reading the text, he usually comes, but when he comes on Friday when when his father has already received his wages. So when he comes on Friday, what will he do? He always come to lend money, to borrow money, rather, sorry. He always come to borrow money from his father, which he will always promise to pay back. And there will always be this fight between him and his father. The father will tell him to quit music and focus on what's it called? And he should get a job. He should quit music and focus on getting a job. And Rose, being like a stepmother to him, will always plead with Troy that Troy should lend him the money, and that he would what? He would definitely pay the money. He would definitely pay the money back. Now, you know who Bono is? Bono is married also. He met Troy in the prison. They are friends. They are both sanitation workers. And Troy protested. Even as a sanitation worker, there is this racial discrimination there. Even as a sanitation worker, what they do is that they collect garbages. They collect garbage, sorry. They collect garbage, and it is only white people that drive. So Troy had to protest in their office. Troy had to protest in their office that why can't a black man become a driver too? And Bono and other black sanitation workers were like trying to placate him that he should be calm if he doesn't want to even lose his job. So he was called by their boss, and everyone was, this is the end for Troy in this sanitation's job. But fortunately, at that time, racial profiling was reducing already. So Troy was promoted. And what kind of promotion? He was promoted from being a garbage collector to a garbage truck driver. Yes?
It's not a chance. Rose. Wife to Rose and Troy was the story is so complicated. Troy was very wicked to his son.
Let me get your question correctly, please. What's the question?
His friend is Bono. Bono was scared. He doesn't want to have. He has a wife, but doesn't have. Yes, he was a cabbage truck driver. He doesn't want to have a children because of what his father did.
Bono is not a driver. Bono was never a driver. Bono was just a garbage collector, same as Troy. So it was Troy that got promoted to being a driver later on. Do you get that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So Bono was what? Bono and his father. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. References. Please mute your speaker, please.
Okay.
Okay, now. Mute your speakers if you want to hear me, Rose David. Okay, it is mute now. So references was made to Bono's father and Troy's father. References was made to both fathers, and the relationship between Bono and his father was between both of them and their fathers were unpleasant ones. Bono's father had Bono's father couldn't take care. None of their fathers took care of them. None of their fathers take responsibility for their lives. And what eventually references what a clear reference was made to Troy's father instead. What made Troy fled home was this. Troy's father usually asked him to go fend for a horse. There is this horse that he takes care of. So one day, Troy was already getting matured enough. When he does something bad, the father would whip and flog the hell out of him. So one very day, Troy was getting mature enough, rather, it can be mature enough. And he has let me put it as a girlfriend. He has a girlfriend. And one very day, the father asked him to go get something done. And when he came, by the time he came back, he discovered that the father was already making advances, serious love overtures to that lady. And he fought. He fought his father, and after fighting him, he decided to leave the South. That was how he left home. But so their relationship, so the basic thing you should pick from this is that the relationship that they didn't enjoy any form of relationship, any form of care really from their parents. And this is something they on their own end tries what they are avoiding. Troy took responsibility for Corey. He was sending him to school. He has a house to live in. He has a room to live in. The father knows how to get things on mortgage. Their house, I think he has, in fact, there is a reference to how the payment for the house was made too. So that when I finish talking about Bono, we will have to talk about Troy's sibling, who was mentally deranged. Troy's sibling was Gabriel Maxson. He was a veteran. He was a veteran who suffered from PSTDs, or is it PTSDs? PSTDs. So all these post. He stays in rehabilitation centers with Miss Pierce. And he believes that because he bears Gabriel, he believes that he is the Archangel Gabriel. So he goes around with a trumpet around his neck, believing that when it's time to end the world, he will be the one to blow the trumpet. And every time he tries, he's unable to blow it's a wind instrument. He's unable to blow the trumpet to make a sound. So the time he will be able to blow the trumpet and it will sound was after Troy's death. It was after Troy's death. And it was said that should I call it pension? Yes, let's just call it pension or war gratuity, which his brother was supposed to collect. That is Gabriel Maxson, which his brother was supposed to collect. That was the money that that Troy used in acquiring the house in which they live in. That was the money. And the thing is this: you shouldn't feel that Troy is a bad person. When let's call it a certificate or a form, when a form was brought to Troy that he should sign, whether he would take responsibility for Gabriel or not, Troy, it was stated in that letter that okay, let me put it that way. Let me put it this way. Troy accidentally signed the letter that Gabriel should be put in a rehabilitation center. He accidentally signed, and by accidentally, I mean to say that he signed not knowing how to read, he signed because he couldn't read. That what this letter stated was that Gabriel would be in a rehabilitation center. You know, taking Gabriel's money for the house, Gabriel to acquire the house, Gabriel had to stay in the house with them. But Gabriel, being mentally deranged, he can't stay in a spot. He can't stay on the spot for a long period of time. He will always dash out, and when he rushes out, it will cause a problem, and he will be arrested. So Troy is the only person that will be called upon to come and bail his mentally deranged brother. So that is the plot of the text, and I think we still have like 5 more minutes before we end the first session, Mr. Jason, right?
Yes, you have 7 minutes before you end the first one.
Okay, now let me quickly rush summary. Let me give you a blob. So Fences is a story of two main characters who are of African American descent. So the first person is Troy Maxon, who is a tenacious and unstable man, while the other person is a son, Corey, who receives a chance chance at a football scholarship. So upon hearing these news, like I said, Troy has this predetermined notion. He has this opinion about life. And he fears that Corey will turn towards the white culture. Because of the experience he had himself, he doesn't want his son to have anything serious to do with the white. He believed that they will definitely kill his dream as well, just the same way they killed his own. Now, one thing that Troy failed to realize is the margin, is the number of years between them. He was unable to accept that there have been significant changes, that what was obtainable then when Troy was still young and wanted to play baseball and he was unable to, that there have been changes at the moment. So he is unable to live up to that changes. The same way with Baroka in Lion and the Jewel, which made him bribe the surveyor then, when they wanted to construct a railway line that will go through their town, that will pass through their town. He was scared and he couldn't accept. He couldn't accept the scientific, or let me say the technological changes then. So the differences in their opinion regarding the scholarship, the boy wants the scholarship, the father doesn't want. Destroyed their relationship, leaving Troy with a lot of unanswered questions about love, freedom, and let's say responsibility. Because the moment it got to a point where he told this boy to leave his house, and he couldn't take responsibility for the boy's affairs any longer. And as regards freedom, the freedom he so much dreamt of as a child was the same freedom, the kind of freedom he was unable to exercise, he was unable to have while staying with his father, was also a type of freedom that he also deprived his son of having. Son wanted to play football, he has his own mindset, he has his own objective, he has his own opinion, and he disallowed the boy from having the opportunity of playing football. And as regards love, his love to his wife also became questionable, because no one would expect that at that age in his life, he would start having an affair with a woman. Now, okay, I won't talk about in the other session, in the next session that will begin by 5:05, or maybe we can even begin immediately. In the next session that will begin by 5:05, I will talk about the significance of that title, fences. I'll talk about the significance of the title of that title, fences. Now, quickly before we round up this session, the playwright is August Wilson. He was born in 1945 in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh is in Pennsylvania, USA. His mother was of African-American descent, and his father was a German immigrant. So his father did not play a major role in Wilson's life, because the father was barely at home, and the parents even divorced when he was a teenager. So he got his inspiration. All these books he wrote, the inspiration came as a teenager who grew up in Pittsburgh. So everything came from the ideas of things in his neighborhood. And he was a dropout. He dropped out from school at the age of 15, and he started doing different jobs. And he wished to become a writer. And some of the writers that inspired him were Langston Hughes. You all should know Langston Hughes. And also Ralph Ellison, and also D.H. Lawrence. These people have mentioned the American writers. And in fact, we will be reading Ralph Ellison's work, Invisible Man, one of the non-African prose, Invisible Man, or
Rosemary. Rosemary, are you printing it out already?
Yes,
I
sir.
sent something to you.
Sir?
I didn't
hear what you said.
Can we end this class now?
All right, we can
begin the other one.
Let's end it and begin a new one, sir.